that we had to resort to a strike. Mr. Lateef Fagbemi, my amiable Egbo, the Attorney General of the country, was saying that, it's against the trade dispute, Act, Section 41 sub 1. They're supposed to give deadlines, I think 15 days notice. But in all fairness to Labour have been talking about this for a while. We had seen this coming. And if we keep touting that illegality of going on strike, I'd like to ask him, as the Attorney General, how many court orders have government respected? Let's start from there. Because if you want to come to equity, that's come with clear hands. So how many court orders have government respected? How's the government helped to deepen the rule of law in this country? How? Especially the executive. Nobody wants strike. Ajuri was touting yesterday on television. Yeah, completely true. It distorts the economy, people lose money, we lose revenue and all of that. But when you have a government that constantly shows bad faith, this deal ought to have been sealed. It ought to have been announced on the 1st of May, Workers' Day. That would have been a better time to announce this deal. It's the end of May now and nothing is happening. What are the figures? Labour is talking about 400 and something thousand. I know that's ridiculous. Federal government says it's going to add 9.5 billion to their wage bill. But the 60,000 the federal government is talking about will not cut it. And that's why I say, can they meet halfway? At least federal government should put forth something a little over 100,000. And let her go back and forth before we get something. Labour that could drop from 615,000 to 490 something definitely is willing to do a deal. This was after a lot of people accused Labour of not shifting ground. But today, Labour is well within their right because the government is not meeting them halfway. And at the same time, what I don't understand is the bad faith shown by the government and the fact that, yes, as Mr. Jega argued in his back page column of This Day this morning, we don't have the resource. Yes, it's not the days of Udoji when Nigeria was at war with petrol cash. Yes. But the truth has to be said. Despite the fact that we don't have the resource, this government has indescribably spent indiscriminately. Should we start with over 90 billion for religious travel? Should we start by the 160 million that was even given to the lawmakers like Mr. Fabio and the likes to be able to buy cars? Should we continue with the 1 trillion spent on 47 kilometers of road at a time where the economy is bleeding? Should we continue with the failed promises? They said they were going to launch CNG by 29th of May. Where are the CNG buses? What happened to the palliative? Since there was a debacle in the humanitarian ministry, nothing was done. What happened to the release of food from the National Grains Reserve? So we have a lot of things yet undone by this government, and the government keeps missing its priority. So at this point in time, it's sad that we have to go through a strike. Everything's going to be shut down. We hear some local air operators are trying to change their schedules and things like that, but please, government meet Labour halfway.
Well, I'm glad that a number of sentiments have been expressed by a number of key stakeholders, including government functionaries and some well-meaning Nigerians, advocating for a halt of the strike action, citing the damage it would do, further damage, I would say, it would do to the economy and how the people suffer when this happens. However, I think this conversation, or perhaps these opinions and thoughts, should have been put forward not now, but several weeks before. In all honesty, with the statements that are being made about the effect of strike actions on the people is legitimate. There are causes for concern, and that is why oftentimes they'd rather not go down the line of a strike action. But in the same vein, the federal government hasn't shown good faith, unfortunately. I mean, right from the time when there had been several, strike actions being threatened by Labour, and they would have conversations, they'll go to the negotiation table, they'll reach 7-point agenda, 17-point agenda. Unfortunately, when we look back at the resolutions from those mediations, many of those promises made by the federal government haven't been fulfilled. So this is not an overnight decision taken by organized Labour. In fairness to them, some Nigerians have opined that this is a long time coming. This ought to have been done since, because they have continuously gone to the negotiation table with the federal government without a lot being done in terms of action. Before I already cited, where are the CNG buses? We asked this question. Why must it take a strike action, a shutting down of the economy, a downing of tools for the federal government to begin to run here and there to find solutions to what is a glaring problem of the Nigerian people? I think it is unfair to then begin to point fingers at Labour, organize them and say, oh, you're putting the people in further poverty, and this is illegal, when the federal government itself hasn't done what it ought to do in terms of keeping to its own end of the promise. The president of the TUC, Festus Osifo, had mentioned that 2 weeks ago, organized Labour went on a nationwide protest protesting the hike in electricity tariff. That till today, not one single conversation has happened since then from the federal government's end. Let me say, he said, since we undertook the nationwide protest, the recent hike, against the recent hike in electricity tariffs, no government official has called us for discussion. Even the Minister of Power has not thought it fit to invite us for discussion. Then they announced a strike, and everybody's looking for mediations and midnight meetings, and calling labor to call off a strike. Why must we get to this point for the federal government to begin to ask? That's the question a lot of Nigerians are asking. Are they saying that they're oblivious to the sufferings of Nigerians? Are they saying they're oblivious to the promises that they made that they haven't yet kept? And now, Labour, having been pushed to the wall, have now said they will embark on an indefinite strike action as a result of the lack of, the show of seriousness from the end of the federal government to show that at least they're making effort. In all fairness, no one wants to down their tools. I don't think you'd ask any worker who'd be willing to, because of the consequences of this. However, one thing we must understand is that if government, in the time when the announcements, these policies that had been made that impoverished people, had shown, even in their body language, in their decisions, in policy directions, that they were on the track to ensuring that Nigerians wouldn't be heavily hit, rather than taking the high stand and not seeming to connect to the people, perhaps we wouldn't be where we are today, where a strike action has been instituted. If the promises had been kept, the CNG buses, and like I mentioned, when the deadline couldn't have been met, could they have made an announcement, a form of communication, continuous communication to the effect that Nigerians know where they stand? It almost seems like the people are being taken for granted. Therefore, organized labor, being at least one organ where people can protest or express displeasure and express, just how much people are suffering in Nigeria, has taken on the decision to go on the strike. If you ask a number of people are saying that, well, we would rather take this and let the government act than continue to keep quiet and nothing is being done. My hope is this, that when they go back to the negotiation tables, it won't just be talk show, that there will be actions that are smart, so able to be, that are specific, measurable, that they're achievable, they are time bound, and very importantly, government honors the commitment they make at the negotiation table. Unfortunately, they haven't shown good faith. There's no integrity in terms of the agreements they've made in the past. So I don't understand the assurances that will be made to keep the strikes at bay, because in the past this hasn't been done. We'll see how this pans out. The most important thing is the Nigerian people, who unfortunately keep on bearing the brunt of bad decisions, bad policy directions, and bad leadership. It's very sad, and I hope that people are able to find a way to find a way around this action that is being taken. The Nigerian Police Force has released a statement as well that people should maintain the peace. It's a strike action, no opportunity for it to be turned around or hijacked and then turned into something else that people don't want. It is an act of protest, and it is a right of Nigerians to go on strike, or for organized labor to go on strike.